but you want to boycott the one player, looking right at you, Angel Reese and Asia Wilson, one player that has caused the revenue to go way up in the monetary values. That's what you want to do. You think you're helping these women?
The NBA Civil War has officially begun, with millions of new fans that Caitlin Clark has brought to women's basketball who don't understand why anyone would try to destroy the sensation, and A.A. Wilson and his supporters apparently pushing for fans to boycott her games.
That's what they're mad about. 41 nationally televised games, and they are furious over it. I can't understand.
Even though the league has never been more popular, some players and their supporters appear determined to resist it. Fever games are selling out venues. ESPN is airing more WNBA than ever before, and social media is ablaze with talk about women's basketball. The unsettling reality of celebrity jealousy and the future of women's sport is revealed by the true motivation behind this boycott attempt.
The original fans, activist fans, that's what they are, all right? Just keeping it real. They don't like the fact that you want to watch these games. They don't like the fact that you are 3 or 4 times the amount of them.
Did you notice the current WNBA situation? There is a civil war erupting between fans over Caitlin Clark receiving 41 nationally televised games this season, more than any other player in the league. The tension has escalated to an unprecedented level and is causing divisions that no one anticipated.
Right here, Caitlin Clark in the Fever will have more nationally televised games than any NBA player this year. Sorry, LeBron. Sorry, Luka. Sorry, every other player in the league. Let's be honest. I've seen the NBA ratings. She's beaten most of them.
It's not just random internet trolls who are spreading the idea that fans should illegally stream games or not watch at all when the Fever play. Some WNBA fans are actually planning to boycott Indiana Fever games in an attempt to purposefully lower viewership numbers because they believe Clark is receiving too much attention.
So they're all mad right now, furious, and my goodness, guys, they're talking boycott. Oh, what? Oh, there's strength in numbers. There's tens of you. That's
The numbers are what are truly astounding in this case. This season, more NBA players, not just WNBA players, but NBA players in general, will be featured on national television than Caitlin Clark. LeBron James Curry, Luka Doncic Stephen. It is completely unique in basketball history that all of these superstars receive less TV exposure than a WNBA rookie. But this isn't just about who gets more screen time. It's about a significant change in who controls the WNBA narrative.
And yes, I understand. This is a very, very small minority. It is a very small minority of people, but it is a loud, vocal minority. And this is not the general public. This is not the general population.
For many years, a small but vocal group of devoted fans have dominated WNBA conversations. They have stood by the league through thick and thin, frequently when no one else was listening. Suddenly, millions of new fans are joining, many of whom have never watched women's basketball before, and they are completely altering the way the league functions and who receives attention.
right. We're not supposed to talk about it out loud, maybe. That's a massive part. Straight white girl's a big part of it too. I mean, it's out loud. It's out loud. It just came out of my mouth like that. Just easy peasy. So they're mad, and they are calling for boycotts.
And when you consider the reality, the boycott movement exposes an unsettling reality. Some devoted WNBA fans would prefer fewer viewers than Caitlin Clark's success, and they are prepared to jeopardize the league's expansion in order to make a point. NBA media representatives have expressed surprise at these calls, pointing out that the opinions of the majority of fans aren't represented by this vocal minority.
About the Slows are now planning to, quote, boycott Indiana Fever games to affect the viewership. They really think they matter in the big scheme of things.
The truth is that we're witnessing a classic instance of gatekeeping, where original fans who feel ownership over a niche interest suddenly watch it become mainstream and feel threatened by the newcomers. This pattern is similar to what we've seen in music, comics, gaming, and any other subculture that unexpectedly gains attention.
It's just mad. And what they have now trying to do is they are trying to boycott Indiana Fever games. I'm not joking when I say this. They are literally saying, boycott Indiana. We need to all boycott the Indiana Fever games so they don't get more national TV games. We don't get more national TV games next year.
The boycott movement's detractors point out how ineffective it is for fans to purposefully destroy viewership figures. In addition to harming Caitlin Clark, they could jeopardize the financial future of every player in the league. This boycott could have unforeseen repercussions that affect women's basketball as a whole.
I cannot believe it. And again, this is a minority of people, but the problem is the idiotic minority somehow have a lot of them somehow have ins with WNBA players, WNBA teams and stuff. I cannot believe it.
You quickly realize how counterproductive this boycott is when you look at the money in professional sports. Prior to Caitlin Clark, the WNBA games were lucky to draw 200,000 viewers, but now they draw over 1 million, and that five-fold increase isn't just a statistic. It could mean life-changing money for each and every player in the league. Those viewership figures translate into dollars in players' pockets, making the boycott idea not only trivial, but also financially damaging.
That equivalent, I just can't believe it. But their reasoning for boycotting the Fever games, they're literally saying, we should illegally stream the games when the Fever play our team. And I'm like, one, you are not a big enough percentage of the population for it to have any effect.
Allow me to clarify how this really operates. The huge contracts that networks like ESPN, ABC, and CBS pay to broadcast games. And guess what decides how much these networks will pay? Viewership statistics are known as media rights deals, and the WNBA is intimately linked to these agreements rather than just choosing players' wages at random. The networks will spend more money on broadcasting rights since more viewers translate into more advertising cash.
All that does is harm the players. No matter who you are, what team you are a fan of, if you want the players to make more money,
the networks are watching these viewership spikes with Clark and seeing dollar signs that they're willing to pay significantly more than they were before she entered the league. Those games with millions of viewers aren't just good for Clark. They're raising the potential ceiling for every single player's salary cap. At the same time, the WNBA is currently negotiating its next media rights deal, and this is literally the worst possible time for fans to be talking about boycotts.
They're actively trying to ungrow the game. And it's madness. It's absolutely madness. They are threatening to boycott the Fever games. All 257 of them threatening to boycott Fever games like it makes any difference. These people are not fans of basketball. These people are actually not fans of the WNBA.
The networks are watching these viewership spikes with Clark and seeing dollar signs that they're willing to pay significantly more than they were before she entered the league. Those games with millions of viewers aren't just good for Clark. They're raising the potential ceiling for every single player's salary cap. At the same time, the WNBA is currently negotiating its next media rights deal, and this is literally the worst possible time for fans to be talking about boycotts.
They just don't like Caitlin Clark. This is genuinely, it's nothing to do with basketball. And it's nothing to do with Caitlin Clark, the person. There's no rhyme or reason to it, because I don't think there is a harder person to dislike.
The whole boycott idea becomes ridiculously ironic at this point because many of the same fans who are calling for boycotts have been the ones who have been calling for WNBA players to be paid more for years. They have correctly pointed out the pay differences between male and female athletes, and now that a player is actually attracting the kind of audience that could help close that gap, they want to tank the numbers because it makes sense.
They just don't like Caitlin Clark. It's a personal thing, and they will literally. These people, again, they're not fans of basketball, they're not fans of the WNBA, they're not fans of any teams. They just don't like Caitlin Clark.
The boycott supporters' lack of understanding that increased viewership generates a positive feedback loop for the entire league economy. When more people watch, more people buy tickets to see games in person, more people buy jerseys and team merchandise, is particularly annoying. More businesses are interested in supporting teams and athletes. the whole women's basketball economy becomes more robust.
I don't think they understand there's no viewership before Clark. So if they boycott, would it really move the needle?
And this new money benefits everyone. A rising tide lifts all boats, rather than just one player. The money made from these media agreements is dispersed throughout the league, increasing minimum wages and salary caps for all players. Veterans who have been working hard for years on meager contracts may finally get the compensation they are due.
And it's a situation where they move the goalpost. They'll always move the goalpost. You're seeing like prominent figures in the WNBA media-ish space. And the reason I say media-ish space is the Twitter trolls somehow are interact with the damn actual media in a two-way conversations every day. It's mental.
Even though Clark provides all of the league's players with financial advantages, we must face the unsettling fact that would any other sports fans actively attempt to boycott their most well-liked player? Can you picture NBA fans refusing to watch LeBron James games or NFL fans planning to skip Patrick Mahomes games? This double standard is not only unexpected, it also speaks to a deeper aspect of how women's sports are perceived in comparison to men's sports.
If us sports fans wanted to watch this crap before Caitlin Clark got involved, we would have been watching it. I mean, I own 2 sports channels. I get paid for talking about sports for a living. I was not watching this league.
Let's be truthful about what's actually taking place. Some well-known WNBA media figures have publicly voiced their frustration with Clark's quick ascent, implying that it somehow undercuts the efforts of longtime players who have established the league. This sentiment is particularly strong among older fans and media figures who feel suddenly threatened by all the new attention Clark is bringing. There is a current of jealousy circulating through parts of the WNBA community that no one wants to acknowledge.
Is it possible to boycott just one team's games? Like we all just illegally stream them if they're playing one of our teams? ? That's the plan. Okay, Deidre.
Consider the psychological dynamics at work here. For years, these committed insiders fostered a league that got little attention from the media. They gained knowledge, created communities, and established themselves as authorities. Then, all of a sudden, this rookie shows up and gets millions of new fans' overnight attention that veterans with extraordinary talent never get despite years of performing at the highest level. Such an overnight success is sure to cause complex emotions.
Media. I'm talking about the old WNBA media. I'm not talking about the ones that are in 5 years' time they'll still be there. The old WNBA media that are shaking their fist at the screen every single time they see somebody that was not there with them when no one was watching getting an opportunity in the media that they didn't get, even though they're sitting there in spaces with Twitter trolls talking nonsense about players.
Now, I'm not arguing that every critique of Clark that highlights her defensive flaws or points out areas in which she needs to improve is unfounded. That's a valid basketball discussion, and some fans have observed how she responds to referee calls, finding her body language or facial expressions to be dramatic. However, this is where things start to get weird, because male players display similar behaviors without receiving nearly the same level of scrutiny. The microscope on Clark's every reaction shows a glaring double standard in the way we evaluate athletes.
I mean, the level of dumb here, we're on a whole new scale, all right? We've reached a whole new level. I literally said, is this real? I couldn't believe it when I saw it. I couldn't. They really think they matter. Typical slows.
What's especially intriguing is how the goals keep shifting with Clark. For example, when critics said she wouldn't translate to the collegiate game, they said the pro level would be too physical for her. Now that she's shown she can compete against the best in the world, the narrative abruptly changes to saying she's receiving too much attention or that the media is overhyping her. The pattern is clear.
I mean, they truly are pirating the the vehicularly challenged bus at this point. All right, that's what's happening. These people are just dumb. I can't even deal.
The most perplexing part of this whole situation is the reasoning behind the boycott itself. These self-described true fans claim to want better player conditions and are working to lower the league's viewership in an attempt to preserve its integrity. However, they actively oppose the very mechanism that would accomplish that goal, while simultaneously labeling Clark's supporters as fake fans for not appreciating other players and potentially harming the league as a whole with their boycott efforts.
Let me guess. You'd be all for LeBron putting a blonde wig on and hitting the court in the W2. That's my gut feeling. You'd be just fine with that, right? Damn them women's sports rights. I'm just saying, this is the same people we are dealing with, folks.
There's a fundamental clash of visions going on here, not just small-scale jealousy. On the one hand, there are those who have cultivated the WNBA as a niche community with particular values and culture, and on the other, there are those who see Clark as a catalyst for making women's basketball a mainstream phenomenon, even if that means welcoming millions of new fans who are unaware of all the nuances and history.
This is the heroes and legends among legends that don't even shiver the needle. That needle hadn't even shaken. It hadn't even accidentally, there ain't even been no accidental motion out of it. It's just like nothing. Nothing. They want a boycott. Okay. Tell me how that works out.
In actuality, the boycott concept is totally backwards because when a player like Caitlin Clark raises awareness of women's basketball, it opens doors for all of the league's players, as we are witnessing in real time. Increased attendance, more sales of products, and sellout audiences. For some teams, this goes beyond a single player stealing the show.
I'll agree, and the reality is that in the world, in life, most people are decent people. Like, no matter what social media wants you to believe, most people are sound. Most people you meet are good people. It's just the minority of idiots are a very loud minority of idiots.
The WNBA renaissance has the potential to make women's basketball the global powerhouse it deserves to be. Players and the league are openly excited about how this growth translates to better sponsorship deals and higher salaries for everyone. This is the moment when the financial tide starts lifting all players, not just the most popular ones. Instead of dividing the fan base, we should be celebrating this historic turning point. Women's basketball and tennis both benefited from increased visibility, which elevated the entire sport.